We're continuing with our discussion of the laws of kashrut. So now the Mishnah and the Sechet also tells us that besides for food cooked by a goy, there's another enactment that the Chachamim made to protect between, making social distance between us and the Gentiles, and that is pat akum, bread baked by a goy. The Chachamim forbade bread that was baked by a goy. It is also forbidden for a person to consume. However, the Gemara Masechet tells us there is a little bit more leniency by the laws of bread than there is by the laws of food cooked by a goy. And that is, the Gemara tells us that if there's no Jewish bread available, bread baked by a Jew, you're allowed to have the bread baked by a baker who's non-Jewish. Obviously, the bread we're talking about is where it's kosher. There's only kosher ingredients. The only issue is that the goy baked it. If there is no Jewish bread available, the Chachamim permitted for a person to eat bread baked by a goy. Now, the Rishonim explain is because by bread, it's a staple. It's a basic necessity of a person's diet. So therefore, the Chachamim could not be so strict. The halakha today, the Ashkenazim, they're very lenient, and they don't eat pat Yisrael. Why is that? The Tosafot, the Masechet Avodah Zarah says that when they initially made this ruling about pat akum, that you cannot have bread baked by a goy, a lot of people were not able to keep this halakha. It was a gezerah shen rov tzibur amdim bo. It was something that was very difficult for everybody to get used to because bread was so common in a person's diet. So therefore, Tosafot was of the opinion that la halakha, a person doesn't have to have pat Yisrael today, and that's what the Ramah brings in Kuf Yud Bet. However, according to Aruch, we don't follow like this opinion. We follow like the Ran, follow like the Rambam, follow like how the Bet Yosef explains, and that is that even today, a person has to eat only pat Yisrael. If there's no pat Yisrael available, then you're right. Shulchan Aruch would agree that it will be permitted to have bread baked by a goy. Even Shulchan Aruch talks about a case, let's say you have a certain type of bread, or a certain type of cookie, that's not available by the Jewish brand. It's not available pat Yisrael, and it's only available by the goyim. It's only available the goyish version. It's kosher. People want to speak about Oreos, people want to speak about Stelladora cookies, people want to speak about all these type of, wraps and all these type of things. That Rabbi, I try to find the same thing. I don't find the same thing. It's not as good. I find it similar, but it doesn't taste as good, Rabbi, by the Jewish brand. The Goyish brand tastes better, and the Goyish brand is also kosher. So even Shulchan Aruch would agree in a situation where the Goyish brand is better than the Jewish brand. It's also considered as if the pat Yisrael is not available, and there's room for leniency. We don't see such leniencies by food cooked by a goy, but by bread we do see such a leniency because bread is a part of staple of a person's diet. I don't know about the cookies if they're a staple of a person's diet, but the leniencies exist because that was the halakha originally by bread. So therefore, a person to know there's a little bit of a leniency, that we see another leniency by the laws of pat Yisrael, that by a Jew, when he wants to make food cooked by a Jew and not food cooked by a goy, you have to make sure the food puts the food on the fire, according to Shulchan Aruch. But even Shulchan Aruch agrees by bread baked by a Jew, all you need to do is that the Jew turns on the fire, or he stokes the coals, or he adds a piece of wood to the fire, something insignificant like that. Even Shulchan Aruch agrees that's enough to be considered something that makes it pat Yisrael. So therefore, whenever you go to the store, you're going to buy something, you're going to go buy hamburger buns, you're going to go buy hot dog buns. In the summer, you're going to make barbecues, you're going to go buy lipyoshka, you're going to go buy notapi, all these things. First has to know it has to be pat Yisrael, and if the person does not buy pat Yisrael, it's a sur derabanan. It's a sur derabanan to eat the non-pat Yisrael because according to Sfaradim, according to Shulchan Aruch, this law still is in effect to today. A person a lot of times can make a mistake and say, Rabbi, I go to this restaurant, what's the big deal? It's a non-Jewish restaurant. I'm going to buy a fish. There's nothing wrong, nothing not kosher with a fish. Well, it's just the bread, Rabbi. What's the big deal? It's just the bread. It's just the juice. A lot of times a person should not make this mistake and think, oh, well, it's harmless. You don't know. The things that you think are the most kosher, they end up being the most not kosher. There's a famous story with the Aruch Hashulchan. We said this morning that there was a businessman who used to tell the Aruch Hashulchan, oh, I don't agree with you, Rabbi Epstein, about Chalav Yisrael, oh, it's all baloney, uspakoisa, leave me alone. And he would go to the cafe in the city where they were served not Chalav Yisrael, and he would do business. He would meet his clients over there, and he would go and make coffee with them. He'd get coffee and make business with them for years. And then one day he came crying to the Aruch Hashulchan, to Rabbi Epstein, alav shalom. He said, I want to do teshuvah. I said, why? He said, look what happened. I went to this cafe in the city for many years to do business there. And it's the best coffee in town. Everybody loved the coffee there. And I didn't know why everyone loves the coffee there. What's so special about this coffee? So one day, for years I'm going there, I go to the owner. I said, listen, tell me, honestly, why is your coffee so good? Everybody loves to drink here. Everybody loves to drink your coffee. He said, listen, you're a good friend. I'll tell you the secret. Don't tell anybody. Come, I'll show you in the back. Goes, takes it into the back, takes it to the alley. And in the alley, it's his store, and across the alley is a butcher shop. So he comes, he says, come, I'll show you. He goes to the butcher shop, and he says, come, I'll show you. He says, you see this mazgi? I take these brains, I take this kishki, I take this charbu, I take this fat, all these things. I melt it, I make it like a cream, and I add this into the milk, into the coffee as my creamer. Makes it delicious. Nobody ever thought of such a thing. That's why my coffee is delicious. He said he came to the rabbi afterwards. He said, Rabbi, for years, I'm drinking coffee, eating basar b'chalab, eating telefoi, doing all the greatest sins. And what? Because I started saying, oh, chalav Yisrael, blah, 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 blah. And then the thing he thought was harmless was the biggest problem in the world. So therefore, a person, not mezalzel, you cannot disgrace the words of sages. They know what they're talking about. They are greater than us. And a person has to have emunah in the Torah, and emunah in the sages, the